Ladies, gentlemen, and glorious gender non-conforming gremlins, hello again, I am Blunty. Welcome to another video on problem games when it comes to the ROG Ally versus the Steam Deck. Yes, ROG Ally content again, because after 12 different videos over the past 4 weeks, I am still not even close to being bored of fiddling with it or making content about it. And it would seem evident by, you clicking on this, you people are still interested in watching more of it, so why not? Super huge thank you to the enthusiasm and support you folk have shown towards how I'm covering this little critter. Today's question for you though, let me know in the down below comments what you think will be the most useful accessory for you for how you would use such a handheld gaming gadget. For me, it's the dock, but mostly because I'm spending a lot of time capturing gameplay from it for all these videos and streams, and the HDMI out on the dock makes that a whole lot more practical. Plus, I'm really enjoying that dock I shot off in the other video that has an M.2 slot in it, so I can store a bunch of games that I only use in docked mode in there, and save the rest of the space on the Ally for other stuff. So handy. And an even bigger thank you, of course, to the Patreons who go above and beyond in the support of the thing what I done do here on the tube. Thank you so much, you glorious people. So, you may have picked up by now that that's Star Wars Jedi Survivor humming away on the Ally. When we're talking Steam Deck comparisons, this game is in fact rated gold on ProtonDB, but that's in theory only, really, insofar in that it will install and it will launch, but I found many reports from Steam Deck users here and in other places having a lot of issues with stability, with crashing, and most of all, performance. More recent patches have helped both on the Steam Deck and everywhere else, but even still, those who got it to run consistently on the Steam Deck by jumping through some hoops and running experimental versions of the compatibility layer Proton are still reporting that FPS can't really reach a stable 30 FPS and kind of sits in the low to mid 20s for most people, it seems. That's got to be frustrating. Meanwhile, here on the Ally, if you saw my original and prime review of this device, you might recall that this game initially refused to boot at all. So that was kind of an automatic win for the Steam Deck, no matter how badly the game ran, because it wouldn't even start here. It just crashed after the intro logo splash screen videos played. That was frustrating too. At the time, I wrote it off as an issue with the pre-release AMD Radeon drivers, or simply this notoriously issue-ridden game being just a bit full of bum smells. However, I later discovered that the game has the exact same issue on multiple devices running AMD's new Ryzen 7 7840U APUs, of which the AMD Z1 APU inside the Ally is in fact a customized variation of. In any case, it seems sometime since I last tried to boot the game in exasperation and frustration, either one of the BIOS updates, or the driver updates, or the Asus software updates, or a game patch update, perhaps all working in concert together, the game is happy to launch now. And the good news is, as you can see, it not only starts and runs and, goes into the game, but runs at a very acceptable frame rate, easily exceeding 30 FPS, even in the notoriously performance-sucking areas like Jeddah and Coruscant. In fact, outside of the occasional dips to the mid-30s, the game does tend to spend most of its time in the mid-40s, and I think that's a decently comfortable space to make this game feel smooth and engaging. And I can achieve frame rates like this in 2 different setup modes. At 720p, we can engage FSR 2.1 at the balanced setting, which in more specific terms is an internal render resolution of 635p upscaled by FSR's algorithm to 720p. Or you can also choose to go 1080p output, and this we need to drop down to performance FSR mode, which is an even 2 times scaling, so 540p internal resolution. These 2 modes will present slightly differently, especially if you're docked and playing on a large screen. You're going to notice the differences more, but on the Ally's densely pixeled 1080p native 7-inch screen, they actually look extremely close to each other. And for that reason, for handheld mode, I would stick with 720p for this. It looks pretty clean, there's a little less upscaling going on, so a little less artifacting, and somewhat counterintuitively, the frame rate is a little higher on average, even though the internal resolution is doing more work. But regardless of which way you go, you are keeping well above 30 FPS as sort of your absolute floor minimum to keep this thing very playable. And yes, I know what you're thinking now. Hey Blunty, how about ray tracing? Because you have been watching my Ally content, you've seen me do ray tracing on Minecraft Java and Minecraft Bedrock, and even Cyberpunk 2077 on the Ally in other videos, and by Grabthar's hammer, it actually works, which I'm still a little bit stunned by. The Allies GPU does indeed contain ray accelerator cores, 12 of them as a matter of fact, and they can get the job done. But also, if you've played this game on PC, you already know the ray tracing here is especially badly implemented and not very well optimized and tanks performance on even the likes of my RTX 3080 Ti. So, let's give it a go anyway. Here we are, 720p ultra performance mode on FSR, which means to get to 720p we are upscaling from a 240p internal render. And well, you actually almost get close to playable, don't we? Well, I mean, we're in the sort of mid to high 20s here. And on Jeddah, which is one of the toughest places to run. So maybe in some easier to run areas than this dirt ball of a backwater planet, you might get away with it. But you know what, overall it's just not worth it. Not for the game to look like this. And quite frankly, the ray tracing in this game is not as dramatically different as, say, Cyberpunk's presentation is when you turn full ray tracing on. But it is fun though, right? Knowing you can technically do ray tracing in Jedi Survivor on a handheld gaming PC. Oh, and of course, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but it probably goes without saying. You've likely noticed it in some of the footage here. I've probably included some setting screens for you. But yes, we are, of course, in standard low settings here. And this pig of a game really does need the turbo mode from the Ally to be practical. You can get away with this standard 15-watt mode if you make similar sacrifices to what we had to do to make ray tracing work. And by that point, I don't think it's worth it. So for this one, you are going to want to be docked or at least plugged in for that, unless you want to evaporate your battery or have a particularly short playtime anyway. Maybe just waiting for a bus, I don't know. But really, it does look better than I thought it would at these settings. Again, thanks in large part to the 1080p native 7-inch screen hiding a lot of the crimes of FSR's, artifacting and lower texture resolutions and that kind of thing. So yes, I will call this playable, and in a few hours of testing and fiddling, it never did crash on me, so I guess that's a leg up on the Steam Deck users as well. And in previous videos where I've used the framing device of problem games the Ally has versus the Steam Deck, the Ally has mostly just been a better experience by nature of its extra power and its much better screen, high resolution, better colors, better refresh rate, all that kind of stuff. But this time around, all of that aside, it really is the difference between a AAA title being practical and playable versus bootable but unplayable. And considering how much of a bloated Gamorrean this game is on even well-spec'd desktop PCs, that does in fact say quite a lot about the Ally's ability to run games. Not bad, right? Thank you very much for watching. Thank you especially to those of you who've done the interactive things like comment and thumb and sub and bell and all that sort of stuff. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling on by. I am Blunty, and we'll catch you next time.